Hello everybody. Okay, so thank y'all again for sending in images for me to work. The images I'm going to work right now are from Sheri Lindberg, if I'm saying that correct. This is her Facebook page. So this is Sheri. Thank you, Sheri, for sending that in to me. And Sheri sent me two images. We're going to work this one first. So I'm going to double click it in Bridge and it opens up Adobe Camera Raw. I've said it before that if you are using Lightroom, you are operating slowly. Now again, I know you get used to stuff and things go much faster the more you get used to it. But Lightroom is, a lot of times people think they're doing something in Lightroom, but again, Lightroom is a portal to get you, if you're using Lightroom to convert your raw files, all you're doing is getting to a portal, which is Adobe Camera Raw. And you can access Adobe Camera Raw either through Photoshop, Bridge, or Lightroom. So you can get to it all sorts of different ways. I choose to get to it through Bridge because Bridge is just basically stripped down and it's designed strictly for image viewing and moving images from one folder to another. It's like a really fancy, Finder window kind of thing. It allows you to preview things and stuff like that. So that's why I choose to use Bridge, as opposed to Lightroom making all these different things that Lightroom makes you do. All right, so Sheri, let me just tell you that first of all, this image appears to me to be underexposed. Now that could be by design. Again, unless I'm there, but looking at your histogram of an image set, again, this is completely raw, straight off the camera, but looking at your histogram, everything's piled up to the left-hand side, which tells me that, again, it's underexposed. Now, if I tweak the exposure, you notice that that histogram starts to move out to the middle. Now, of course, the image gets way weird bright because she's on like a little dark background. But typically, you want a nice curve of the histogram like this, not everything all piled up onto one side. So visually, I'm going to stop somewhere in here. And again, this, you said in an email to me that this was part of a fine art project that you were working on. So again, I don't know whether or not you shot it like this, right down the middle, lots of airspace on purpose, or you was intending on cropping it later. There's so many things that and that's why I have people send me the raw files whenever I do this, because I like to go in with no knowledge. Is just saying, like, let's pretend I took this picture. What would I do with it? And so that's kind of what we're doing here. So looking at the image, it appears also, like when I zoom in, I thought maybe there was, like, I guess I could call it up to figure it out, but it's almost like one eye is in focus and one eye is slightly out of focus. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that is the case. But you know what? We're going to go with it. We don't mind. We're going to play with this. So once you get to this stage, adjust the exposure and stuff. Again, I'm going to go to my presets because it makes my life easier, and I'm going to go to default. And when I go to the default preset, notice that, okay, everything got really strange because I'm not sure what camera you're using, but I promise you it's not the camera I use. Look, I'm looking at it right now on your different settings here that you set it. It's a 24-70 lens at f5.6. So it is entirely possible that one eye is in focus and one eye is out of focus. That is entirely possible. Again, there's no rules with all this stuff, but I shoot at f8, and I find that by shooting at f8, people pictures that, if you focus on one eye, no matter how hard their head turns left to right, depth of field allows you to get both of them in focus. So that's just a side suggestion. So after I run my preset, I'm going to go ahead and tweak the exposure a little bit. And I'm going to take the highlights down, tweak the exposure again, adjust my blacks, and adjust my shadows. And it's starting to get close. I'm going to take the clarity way down. Maybe not that far down. Okay. Let me just add just a tiny bit of contrast, tiny bit of an exposure adjustment. Now, to me, everything looks a little, I don't know, yellow. So I'm going to add just a smidgen of blue, smidgen of green in my tints. And I'm going to take my vibrance and saturation down a smidge so it's not quite so out there. Maybe I went too far on that vibrance. Alright, maybe it's slipping a little blue now again. Put a little bit more of that back in. Okay, well, I'm getting awfully close. Now, I think, I could be wrong, but I think if we played around with the hue, saturation, and luminance on this image, that you might be able to resurrect some of this craziness. So taking the orange down just a little bit, just a smidgen, taking the yellow down just a little bit, and then taking the luminance of those areas up a little bit is going to add just a little bit of punch into these areas. Now, I always do the vignette on people pictures, but on this one, since it's kind of dark the way it is, I'm going to add even more to right there. Okay, I'm going to have to say done with the raw. All right, then tools, Photoshop, image processor. And if you haven't seen me do this before, it's like a 4-step process. One, I'm telling it I want to work a file from Bridge. Now, the beautiful thing about doing the image processor like this is, let's say I had 10 images to work. Well, I would highlight all of them, click run, and it would process those images while I'm off doing something else. Okay? So I want to run it into the same location, quality, JPEG, 12 max, sRGB, run the action, KV workflow, portraiture first, run. And all I'm doing when I run it, that action is just adding a slight amount of softening to the skin. Just a slight amount. All right, back over to Bridge. If you notice, we go over to our JPEG folder, and now we have a picture from Sheri. Open it in Photoshop, and let's do the eyes first. I always like to zoom in on the eyes and get the eyes. Now, it's obvious to me that you have just a single, I think that's an octagon-shaped light, looks like to me. And the perfect placement for a catch light is always right over here, upper left, upper right, whatever, but right here where it touches the color part of the eye. And in this case, it's touching the black in both scenarios. So I'm going to go ahead and paint with black, and I'm just going to take the catch light out. Right out of there. Wow. Okay, if anybody ever says, get those white things out of my eyes, and you do it, you now see what happens. It's like death looking, okay? It's just weird. So I now put that back in using mid-tone, 100%. I'm going to turn off protected tones using my dodge tool. And I'm going to just put a little catch light right there where I want the catch light. Now, here's a little dirty secret about me and eyeballs and catch lights, is I do this all the time. I will move catch lights around, and it's funny because I get photographers calling me and saying, Kirk, what kind of light are you using? Because I just know they're looking at the eyeballs and trying to figure out the lights I use. And a lot of times, I've added the catch light back in. So you really can't judge on the images that I do like that. So anyway, now this little girl has this nice little, it looks like blue grayish eyes. And so I like to add this little swoosh to the opposite side of the catch light. See that little swoosh where it lightens it in there? Right in, come on, there. Okay, then hold down your Option key. All right, and rub the black. By holding down your Option or Alt key, it turns your dodge tool into the burn tool, and you can burn back in those edges. Now, I have been known to do this too, where I'll take, just because, you know, again, I wasn't there whenever I did this session, but the mom may have made a comment. Like if somebody makes a comment about, you know, their daughter's lovely blue eyes, well, boom, I file that away. And I make sure they're nice and lovely blue eyes. And so to do that, I'll come over to the saturation, the sponge tool, and put it in saturate mode and make sure the vibrance button is checked at 100% flow. And I will just give those eyes a little rub like that. And it takes those colors and it makes them pop out a little bit more. So that's a dirty little secret too. All right, minus. All right, so now everybody has this thing underneath their eyes that, I don't know, somewhere along the lines, someone said was undesirable. So, using my healing brush, I will just kind of wipe those right out of there. Okay, and on babies like this, it is super easy to do because their skin is so nice. Okay, good. And these little wispy hairs bugging me, I'm going to get those out of there too. Right there. Okay, that one don't bother me so much. Mosquito bump, maybe. And the lines in the neck. Take those out. Looks like maybe like a dress or something caused that line. Soften all that. Okay. Wonderful. Perfect. All right, definitely better. Okay. So now, another cool trick, especially when you have these browns, and again, you know, when you sent me the email, you said something about a fine art project, so that fine art automatically makes me think black and white, and I don't know if that was your plan or not, but I'm sticking with the color. But another cool trick with that sponge tool is in saturate mode, make sure the vibrance button is checked, is on brown backgrounds. Is you can make, watch this, I'm going to just rub it right in here, is you can make that brown background, just rubbing it, you can make that brown background have a very interesting look to it, a look that was not really there. And you can just simply play in this area to add some I don't know, exposure. But it's actually a vibrance, a saturation vibrance that's being added. But that makes it just a little bit more fun to look at, okay? Now this wrinkle over here has to go. So I'm going to use my healing brush, and I'm just going to give that wrinkle a little wipe. And this one over here too bugs me, so I'm going to get rid of that one too. Okay, so now I'm starting to like the background. I'm starting to like the subject. She doesn't really need any touch-ups as far as her clothes. And you know, with kids, I don't like to play so much with that. I really don't like to play with body morphing and that kind of stuff. You know, the last thing we need is kids having that kind of self-esteem problem. But this is bugging me because it's green and the dress is cream. So, to get rid of that green, one thing that you can do is go Command U or Control U, change the master. When it comes up master, change it to anything. It don't matter. We're going to select blue because as soon as you change it, it allows you to click on the thing you're wanting to change. And if you notice, it automatically changed it to cyan 2. Okay? And so it put this little area down here exactly where that color is. Now, that means that in the middle of this darker gray area is where that color is. So to make sure I get it, I'm going to slide this a little bit this way and slide this one a little bit this way. I'm staying way away from reds and yellows because I do not want reds and yellows as in skin. So stay away from this area. But I'm playing in this green and that type of thing. Now what I can do, I can desaturate. Watch what's happening to that. Watch right in here. Desaturate, and now it's going gray. So it's not that green color anymore. I can darken it a little bit. I can lighten it. Okay, I'm going to take it down a little bit. Now, if I leave a little bit of color in there, I can literally shift it around and make it closer to maybe a color, like a tan color or something like that, or somewhere in there, so where it's not so green, okay? And if you wonder what's going on, this is the color it was. This is the color down here that it has become. So you notice that it's become like a brownish, okay? And if I shift it around with the lighten, that's so much better. Watch, before and after. Now, we're talking subtle here, but, you know, again, I don't want anything that's going to distract someone from an image I like. But now when you look at the whole image, now that little thing in her hair is basically, you know, visually the same color as her dress, making it a lot more fun to look at. So now, running my portraiture action, I'm just going to run that. And so portraiture 3 opens up. Click the little eyedropper, and I'm going to select skin. Okay, so I want to add a little softness there. When it runs, it stops. It opens up fade. Now, in this case, it went too far. See, to me, she's looking too mushy. So I'm going to back off way down here. I'm going to add a little bit, but not much. She doesn't need too much more warming. She's already nice and warm, but she does need a little bit of contrast bump. So I'm going to pop that like that, pop that contrast bump a little bit. And then also in levels, when it opens up, you hold down your Alt or Option key, and then it allows me to see graphically which parts of this picture is being affected. And I don't want to get too much into the skin, so if I do a levels adjustment right in here, okay, and a lot of times when you do that levels adjustment, it gets weird contrasty, and you can soften that up right in here, and then visually find your happy spot, which for me is going to be right about there. Before, after. Before, after. I like the after better. Okay, so now we have this nice little image of this nice little red-headed girl. And y'all know how I feel about red-headed little girls, being a have one. So, all right, I'm kind of starting to like that. Now, just for fun, boo, I want to show you all the way back to before and after. Watch. Before, after. Before, after. I think the after, it pops. So hopefully that helps you. I'm going to go ahead and click Save, File, Save. And now I'm going to go over to Sheri's other image. Let me close out of here, go over to Bridge. And I'm going to go to Sheri's other image that she asked me to work on, which is this one. Oh, and again, this is cute as can be. It's so nice, and I got lots of little cool ideas for this. But first thing, like before, I'm just go ahead and run my default. Makes everything pop. Then I'm going to adjust. I'm going to do this one much faster for you. I'm going to adjust the highlights down a little bit because it's got a little weird in the skin. I'm going to take the blacks down a little bit. I'm going to take the shadows down a little bit. Most of the time, outdoor images, the clarity increases a little bit. Now, if you notice by running that, I got a little nice amount of blue peeking through in here, okay? So that made it fun. But now if you would want that blue to come through even more, be careful because he's got blue on. You could go over to saturation, increase the saturation of the blue, and decrease the luminance. And look what it does to the blue here. It got much darker, but also change the darkness here. But I don't find it that offensive. I'm going to keep it. All right. Another thing, while you're here, everybody loves green, okay? So you can tweak the green and not affect the skin because there's no green in skin. You can decrease the luminance, making that green darker or lighter, okay? In this color mix area, I'm going to darken it. And you can increase the saturation, making the greens greener, which really is kind of fun to look at. So now this image, which, excuse me, got even more fun to look at, we're going to click Done. And we're going to run that by going to Tools, Photoshop, Image Processor. Yes, I know it's busy. Run. And that image opens into Photoshop, runs like a little bit of portraiture. And now we're going to go ahead and work that image. All right, so right off the bat, I want you jumping on the kids. So I normally jump into the eyes, but their eyes are closed. So I'm going to start looking at other parts of this image. So I'm going to make it smaller on the screen, dodge tool, highlights, exposure 30%, protected tones off, and I'm going to just give it a little bit of darkness out on these edges because I want your brain going straight into the kids, like that. And see how just making that little bit of darkening out there makes your brain just go boom, straight to the kids. All right, now zooming in on the kids, got a few little wispies. We're going to take those out, but we're not going to get too crazy because it is outside, you know. And again, you know, the image was done outside. And so whenever you do an image outside, what tends to happen is the hair tends to fly around like this. So, I mean, it's real, you know, so why mess up the realism? Now, this whole area right in here can get real strange real fast. So instead of making that with the healing tool or the clone tool, I'm going to go into liquify, and I'm going to zoom in on that area. I'm going to use this little thing that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down. The secret is to make sure your pressure is set to 10, okay? And when you pull to the left, everything goes down. So I'm touching, pulling, and it moves all of that hair down. Now, so I can push it down. It still looks wispy, like it's real. Okay, I got a couple of little hairs left over, but I'll show you what we do with those. All right. Okay. Then you just get rid of the ones and you add the texture back in using the healing brush. So just like that. Okay. So you just get rid of those as opposed to having to mush up that whole area and make it kind of look fake. Now, another thing you could do is use your clone tool at a low opacity and just sort of lighten, make it to where it's not quite so visible like that. Okay, good. Very cute, very nice, much more controlled and controlled. All right, so let's go into them. Again, they got all the stuff on their face, the hairs in their face. All of that's real. I don't want to mess with it. I think it looks too cool, okay? The little redheaded dude got the little freckle thing going on. Reminds me of my youth. Okay, so I will run my portraiture action on it like this. And probably, let's see, let's select some skin. And we're going to crank that up. Yeah, that's nice and soft. And a little bit of warmth, perfect. A little bit of contrast, perfect. A little bit of a levels adjustment, just like we did before. And you know what? Before, after, I'm loving this. Let's look at the whole image before and after. Here we go. Totally before and totally after. Totally before and totally after. All right, there you go, Sheri. I hope that gave you some insight. I hope you learned a little bit. I hope everybody else learned a little bit. I think this is a fun image. And thank you again for sending in images. And if anybody else wants me to work their files, send them in and we'll post it on YouTube and see what everybody thinks. Bye-bye.